Welcome to Raw Conversations, a candid discussion about Japanese cuisine in the city of Houston, Texas, and beyond. I would also like to welcome you to the maiden voyage of this podcast. I am truly excited. This is something that I have wanted to do for some time now. Will it interest the great people of Houston? Well, perhaps. Will this capture the attention of those addicted to Japanese cuisine? Well, I certainly hope so. But there's only one way to know. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. My name is Carl Rosa, the founder, the moderator, and the host of Raw Conversations. And before we dive directly into the deepest end of the pool, I would like to briefly explain the concept behind this idea. I want to take candid and sometimes shocking discussions with those who have a passion for Japanese cuisine and bring them here for you. Some of what you might hear might fall in line with your opinion. Some of it might shock you. Some of it might educate you, amaze you, or even infuriate you. But let me say this right now. During each and every Raw Conversations podcast, I will not hold back. And why? Because we can use this forum to elevate the level of debate of Japanese cuisine, to get it all on the table, to uncover it all. And that brings me to my very first guests. Without any further delay, let's get this started. I want to make sure that I get the introductions correct here. We have Jim Huang, who is the owner-franchisee of Jinya Ramen. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then is it Keith Huang?
That's right, you got it.
And you are partner and general manager of Jinya Ramen.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
You guys have 2 locations right now, is that correct?
Yes, we have 2 locations.
Okay, you have one in Webster, which is near where we are.
Yes.
Correct. And then you have another one in Midtown.
Correct.
And from what I understand, you're building 2 more now.
Right, we're in the construction phases of 2 more right now.
Right now, as of today, you're in the construction phase of building 2 more Jinya Ramen.
Yes.
I'm not trying to be funny, okay? Are you crazy? I cannot imagine the work involved.
Oh, it is definitely very, very labor intensive, both from a construction point of view and operations point of view. But
Which was the hardest, though? Was Midtown? Midtown is colossal, right?
Midtown's colossal, yes. But Midtown is also our biggest success story right now.
Why is that?
Sales and the amount of publicity it's gotten ever since it's opened.
Really?
Right. I mean, it's like a hub where everybody kind of geared towards it attracts all these different crowds.
Did you pick the right location?
I would say we picked the right location. Yeah.
And why, Keith? You're laughing. Why?
No, it's exactly what Jim's talking about. It's a hub. You see, Asians, Caucasians, blacks, Hispanics, unidentifiable.
Yeah.
All walks of life. Every part of Houston has come through there.
You did not expect it to do as well as it's doing, is that correct? Or you expect it to take a longer time, or is it exactly what you expected?
I felt that the overall location without a front parking lot that's easily accessible was going to be a big hindrance.
And it hasn't been?
It hasn't been, simply because, the 3-story parking garage we have in the back, obviously we offer the free valet service. It's actually worked out for the better.
How? I mean, because I'm a layman. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't understand it at all. Mm-hmm. How has it benefited? I would assume it'd be a liability.
Well, the people automatically know that when you're in Midtown, it's tough to find parking.
So it's expected.
Yeah, it's expected. But for some reason, everybody knows that this building houses a 24 Fitness, and it comes with a 3-story parking garage. Okay, and the landlord and us work together with other tenants, other restaurants in the center, to set up a valet service for everybody that wants to park in this. It's free. It's free valet.
Sure.
But now, if customers have frequented Jinya Midtown, they automatically know that, hey, parking is not going to be an issue. They simply drive up, give the keys to the valet, and they're done.
So in other words, if we can call it this, the slight inconvenience is anticipated already. They already know it's something that they're going to have to do. Yes. So it didn't become an issue.
Correct.
It would be like if you opened one downtown, you're going to have to pay for parking.
Right.
You're resigned to it, so it's not a big deal.
Right.
I'm curious, is Midtown clearly took a lot longer to put together?
Yes, it did.
How much longer than Webster? I remember Webster clearly.
It took a year and a half for Midtown.
And how long did it take for Webster?
Little under a year.
A little under a year.
Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily the contractors not moving fast enough or the city delaying us. Jinya Ramen is very new. Okay, I was officially franchisee number 3. So nothing in the system was streamlined. And as a result, we were pretty much learning as we go. Okay, so everything from the materials used to, you know, the layout of the restaurant to the flow of the restaurant, it's a step-by-step learning process for corporate. And being that, I mean, I have experience in restaurants. I've opened restaurants. I've built restaurants.
Sure.
Jinya Ramen is a company that's led by Japanese people that build restaurants in Japan.
Right.
So their mentality is slightly different when it comes to spacing.
Slightly different?
Right.
Okay.
So, you know, they initially gave us a kitchen that's about the size of a closet, thinking that we don't really need much back room.
Yeah, they have
right.
no idea.
So it's a constant back and forth, and that's what primarily caused delays, simply because I have to convince them that, look, we need this, we need that.
Step into my shoes.
Right.
Now, I have to ask, though, you already had Webster done. How long would it have taken if you didn't go through the bumps and wiggles of Webster and just like Midtown was your first one?
Oh, it would have literally taken forever.
Literally. It would have been
and
a
the
nightmare.
The city of Houston is a little bit more strict compared to Webster as well, and that the approval process for the building permit is kind of backed up as well.
For Webster or for Houston?
For Houston.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So naturally, you know, what would normally take Webster maybe a couple of weeks would take Houston maybe a couple of months.
Gotcha.
And that's why, you know, it is imperative that we get everything submitted, and the city will kick back the blueprints telling us we need to make certain changes.
Yeah.
We have to get on that right away and try to get that resubmitted within a couple of days, because we know it's going to be sitting on a desk in a stack of other,
course.
right? So that's what it literally, I mean, I paid out about 8 months worth of rent at $10,000 a month, you know, just.
You got to make that back bowl of ramen at a time, too.
But I believed in the concept. I believed ramen coming to Houston is a good thing, so I stuck with it. I mean, there were times during this whole process that I was about ready just to walk away and say, yeah, forget this.
I believe you. Ramen has hit it big in Houston, bigger than I actually anticipated. Any idea why? I'll ask Keith, why?
I think social media is a big part. I think the fact that you can see, you know, everyone takes a photo of the ramen, whether you're here in Texas or New York or LA. It's kind of like a, you know, a thing you do because it is kind of a new cuisine. But I think here in Houston, and because there's so many young folks who, you know, are getting into it, that whole, it just feeds into the whole beast.
So has ramen become hip?
Yeah, I think so. They call it hip. They call it hype. Yeah.
I don't think it's a fad. I don't think it's I don't think it's temporary. The only thing I can say about ramen is this: I believe that the food itself is good. If you never tried ramen and you're trying it for the first time, it's good. It's addicting. I didn't try my first bowl of ramen till about 3 years ago.
Were you in Taiwan?
Yeah, I was in Taiwan, and I went to, and they have ramen shops all over. Naturally, I would never step into a ramen shop because it's not my type of food. But for some reason or another, my wife said, Jim, let's go. There's got to be a reason why there's a line out the door. And I hate waiting in line. But you know what? I waited an hour outside. I went in there, and I had my very first bowl of ramen.
3 years ago. That's I got to tell you, that's phenomenal because the owner of Jinya, 36 months ago, had never had a bowl of ramen. And now Jinya today is one of the hallmarks for ramen in the city of Houston. That's extraordinary.
When I had it, I told my wife, I got to bring this back. I got to bring this into Texas.
Really?
Yeah, I got to bring this into Texas. The only thing was I had to find the right kind of ramen because I've tried different, every ramen shop produces different ramens. Yeah. And when people go on Yelp and they say, oh, they believe this is the best ramen or that's the best ramen, it's all just opinion. At the end of the day, every ramen is unique in its own way.
Well, all food is subjective.
Right. Yeah. So, for someone to say Jinya is the best or someone else is the best, I respect it, but it's all based on personal preference. But at the end of the day, ramen itself, this type of cuisine, it was very much needed here in Texas, in the southwest region, simply because there's nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
Nothing like it.
And you are, am I correct? Now, Jim, you are going from you own several establishments, not just ramen.
Yes.
So you're bouncing from restaurant to restaurant, doing what you have to do. Am I correct?
Yes.
In not just ramen, but your other restaurants,
right.
And you are knee deep in ramen all day.
Yeah.
Would that be accurate to say, Keith?
I'm front of house. I'm in the trenches, as you say.
In the kitchen, in the dining area, in the office, the whole bit. You deal with ramen how many hours a day?
Well, if I'm doing a double, it's probably about 13 hours, and if I'm only working lunch or dinner, it's 6 or 8. But yeah, it's all week.
Okay, I want the brutal truth here. Okay, what did you learn you did not expect to learn?
Everything. I have no restaurant background at all.
No.
I worked when I was 14, I think I worked as a busboy at Christie's Beachcomber down in Galveston, where I'm from. But my lifelong career has been journalism. I have a degree in journalism and pursued that for a very long time. Wasn't really my cup of tea. Took a long time to figure that out. But since I've started at Jinya, it's no lie. Every single day is something new I'm learning about.
A new obstacle?
Yeah, usually it's obstacle.
Okay. I'm going to ask both of you here.
Mm-hmm.
Do Houstonians, honestly, understand ramen?
They're starting to gradually pick it up.
Okay. What are they missing? And I more than realize, I'm going to say this right now for everyone listening to this podcast. I am not referring to every single person who comes in.
Right.
What you're noticing a trend of some sort?
I've noticed. Well, yeah. I mean, there's certain basics to the ramen, the quote unquote ramen language. Things like temperature. Okay. Things like what is the ramen served in. Okay. I still see ramen served in plastic bowls. Yeah. Okay. The thickness, the noodles, the thinness. Okay. The creaminess of the broth, the different broths that are offered. Even the ingredients that are inside the ramen, the chashu, the different veggies. There's a certain aspect, basics to ramen that I feel people need to eventually pick up in order to appreciate all the different varieties that are going to be offered.
So, in other words, what you're saying is, from your perspective, Jim, you're saying that what some newbies may be experiencing at any ramen shop, they may not be aware what the characteristics of good ramen is.
Right, and we have people, we have customers that come in that say they live in Japan for X number of years,
Sure.
And they'll compare our ramen to the ones they have in Japan, and they'll give their
Well,
feedback.
is that? I mean, I want to ask you, but is that even, for the lack of a better word, is that even fair?
Well, I mean, Jinya wasn't created to replicate the ramen that they serve in Japan.
That's my point.
Yeah, because I mean the clientele we have here in the States, they're not as traditional as the traditional ramen eaters in Japan. So we definitely tweaked our broth and our recipe to try to be ramen for all people. But it's not going to happen. Okay, but of course we're going to come as close as possible. But like I said, it's the more you eat ramen, the more you'll know, the more you're going to pick up. You gain with that. You get more experience. When I had my first bowl of ramen in Taiwan, I thought it was the best thing ever. And then from that point on, I must have had at least another 20 or 30 bowls from other places. Then I start realizing, what's good, what's bad, what's too greasy, what's too creamy. It's
For you.
right. So you really, what I can say is, Houstonians here, eat as much ramen as you can, okay, and then don't eat the same kind, and you're gonna come to realize that you'll start to understand that this particular kind of food much better.
So experiment. You're recommending experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What is a common misunderstood complaint you hear a lot? Now, I'm going to give you a really, really good example from my end, because I think a lot of people in Houston love ramen, and a lot of people do know what good ramen is, but a lot of people don't. And they have griped to me, it's too hot. And that makes no sense to me. That's like saying the car gets way too good gas mileage. It makes absolutely no sense. But I'm not trying to get that from you. What do you hear that you wish people would wrap their mind around and understand you're getting it wrong?
I don't want to say getting it wrong, but I think there needs to be a little bit more understanding about how much labor goes into a bowl. It's not just plop, 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 and we're here. We serve it to you. Yeah, exactly. The analogy I always like to make is, if the ramen you had in college, the 10-cent top ramen is like instant coffee, then what we're serving is like Starbucks.
Oh, hey, that's a good analogy.
People,
that's a good analogy.
You know where the money goes. When you taste it, and that it's not just thrown together. Also, I think one of the things I've picked up is that it's one of the cultural shifts is that ramen is kind of an individual sport. You have your bowl, and you sit and you just sort of eat it by yourself. And there's not a lot of conversation going on while you're eating it because you're supposed to be slurping the noodles and enjoying the broth. I think here when people come to Jinya for the first time, or the ramen shops, it's like, oh, we're going out to eat as a big group or as a group of people and have a nice long conversation and put our forks and knives at 10 and 2 and take pauses between bites. And
while the ramen is cooling down.
Yeah, and I don't think it's really like that with ramen. I think like you said, the temperature-wise, it's optimal to eat it as hot as possible. To slurp your noodles so you can enjoy the aromatics and all that stuff.
Sure.
And that's not really something that you can explain to a newbie who comes in.
It's ironic that you would mention that, because I had someone not that long ago contact me. They just came back from Japan and they wanted to go to Jinya for the very first time. And my recommendation to them, which would really be probably to any ramen shop, but they wanted to go to Jinya, is I said, if you're going with the group or going with your wife, go right ahead, order appetizers, and chat the whole time you're eating your appetizers.
Dining here,
but the moment that the ramen hits the table, shut up and eat the ramen.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
You recommend that?
Definitely. You don't want that. You don't want that ramen getting cold.
It ruins it.
Ruins it.
Now, I have to ask this. In terms of the rumors going around, Tatsuya is rumored to be coming.
Correct.
What are your thoughts?
I think it's good for the market.
Yeah. Good for the market.
It's good for the market. I mean, the way I see it with ramen, just like any other restaurant establishment, any other business, people who do it well will continue to do it well, and people who don't do it well,
They're going to fade away.
They're going to fade away. I think Tatsuya coming into the market just brings everything up to another level. Okay.
But do you think they can duplicate what they do in Austin here in Houston?
That's completely based on their operations.
It's definitely possible.
Yeah,
because Tatsuya has this rep where. Have you ever been there, by the way?
I have, yes.
Okay. Where you sit down, you get like the old school ramen or whatever it is, and it's awesome. And when they opened a second location, I hear that the quality, or at least the expectations, dimmed a bit. And I'm wondering if they expand all the way to Houston, it could take another hit to where, it's not like Austin.
I don't think anything is like the original. Just like, look at the first Lexus car that came out, the LS400. Everybody loved it. It was a $35,000 car, and ever since now, those things run for $100,000. But everybody says it's just not as good as the original. So the way I see it is, I think them coming to Houston, there's a market for ramen here. They want to tap into it. Whether they can, create the same feel, create the same quality as they do in Austin, that's completely up to them. This going to be complete based on operations and everything. But bringing more ramen shops to Houston, I think ultimately is a good thing.
It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
At what point do you think that we'll be saturated?
Well, I mean, saturated. We're not nearly at that point yet.
We are not. And you're not.
Yeah, we're not nearly at that point yet.
Are we? Are we halfway there?
I don't even think we're halfway there. I think every day we're getting customers that come to Jinya that's never had ramen. Okay, so
Brand new ramen.
you won't believe how many of our servers, the amount of time they spend at a table just kind of explaining the menu to the guests so that they know exactly what is it that they're going to be getting in front of them. So I think it's still, we're on the very, very early embryonic stages of ramen. I see a good 10, 15, even 20 years of down the road with this particular cuisine. But like I said, those who do well will continue to do well. You have to continue to innovate. Okay, you have to update your menus. Just one of the things I love about Jinya is that we're always adding new items. We have a great R&D department in California.
You just came back.
I actually just came back from training in California. We're bringing in several new appetizers. This particular appetizer that I went in for was a shrimp toast appetizer. So you hear shrimp toast, something so basic. Why do you need to fly to California and learn it? Well, this particular shrimp toast cannot be replicated by anybody else because the bread comes from Japan.
Well, it's got to be easy.
So we actually had to get we actually fly in the bread, and we got to get it transported from California to Houston.
You fly in the bread from Japan to make shrimp toast that will be served in Houston.
And we tried everything. We went to the supermarket, Sunbeam, Rainbow, whatever brand you have, we tried it. It doesn't taste
for an appetizer.
It doesn't taste the same. We don't know why. So we even brought bread back to Houston. This time when I came back, I brought 2 loaves of it. And today, after this podcast, I'm going to go into those Asian bakeries. I'm going to give them 2 slices, and I'm going to ask them, can you replicate this bread? Okay.
People, like you said, Keith, people have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. This is probably going to be a topic that's going to make you uneasy. But I have to ask, because this is something that's been on my mind since the day you and I met.
Right.
Which was a long time ago now.
Right.
Okay. The classic rule, correct me if I'm wrong, with restaurants is, of course, we're talking about depending on the cuisine. For example, like a high-end sushi restaurant. If you keep your cost at a steady, let's say 30% food cost, it's something that you can at least maybe not brag about, but that was an achievement. And in many cases, I understand, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, it's a 30-30-30-10 principle that a lot of restaurants follow. 30% for the food cost, 30% for infrastructure, 30% for staff, and you got 10% left over for profit.
Correct.
Okay. If you use that same equation in ramen, somebody out there in Houston who's selling a $10 bowl of ramen is putting a whopping $1.50 per bowl in the bank. So in order for him or her to earn, $1,000 a day, you got to make 200 bowls of ramen every day. And if it's a rainy Friday, looks like you're working twice as hard on Saturday to make up for it. That's all. Am I depressing you? So any ramen shop, not just Jinya, any of them, you have got, this is a volume business.
It is.
And the problem is, the bowl that I get tomorrow, if I go back to your ramen shop, better be like the bowl I had yesterday. So you have to do this by volume and consistently do it. That has got to be your biggest challenge. Or is it dealing with me?
Our volume is at a point. Our volume's at a point to where consistency isn't a problem anymore. It's almost like each Jinya runs like a well-oiled machine. The volume is the volume that we're having issues with, because, like at Midtown, the volume is really, really high. And
really?
Yes, it's a high volume location. So, it's. When you have a volume that high and your restaurant wasn't built with the expectation of hitting those kind of volumes.
Are you exceeding your capacity?
Yeah, we're exceeding our capacity. So that's when it makes operations a little bit more difficult. So, I'm not complaining at all.
Oh, I don't think you're complaining at all. I don't think you're complaining at all.
It's just that we've had to make so many tweaks, so many...
To accommodate the demand.
To accommodate demand.
And is this happening at both Webster and Midtown, or is it more?
Webster right now Webster's consistent, but Webster is doing everything it can to help Midtown. We're actually prepping a lot of things at Webster just to support Midtown, because Midtown has very little storage. I mean, we have suppliers that deliver once a week, and we have to tell them that, look, we need it 3 times a week.
Yeah, I've been there, and honestly, it sounds like a great problem, and it probably is a great problem, but it doesn't feel like a great problem when you're knee-deep in it.
Right, it doesn't. I mean, we've had to change out our ice machine. When we opened the restaurant with a 600-pound ice machine, and then it took up quite a bit of space already in the back, and then we had to go out and get a 1,200-pound ice machine simply because we run out of ice on Friday and Saturday nights. We're having to call the ice guys to deliver ice to us. Yeah.
All right, okay, then I have to ask this. Knowing what you now know, before you signed the lease for Midtown, what would you have done differently? Knowing what you now know.
I would have asked for a bigger space. Yeah.
Are you serious? It's that good?
I would have asked for bigger space. Simply because...
I have to be honest with you. When I first walked through Midtown, I thought you were insane. I was impressed with everything. I really was. Don't think for a moment I wasn't. Right. But I walked through and I said, "Yeah, you're gonna pay this. Yeah, you're gonna pay this off with $1 a bowl or $2 a bowl." I thought to myself in the back of my head, Jim knows what he's doing. He's not new to the restaurant world, but I think now he may be doing acid, because there's no way in the world, and I was dead wrong. You have maximized capacity.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still doing $1.50 a bowl, but
No. I'm talking in terms of people coming in.
Yeah, people coming in, we're at maximum capacity. But in terms of profit wise, $1.50 a bowl. And don't forget, I got a 5% royalty I got to pay to Jinya too. So I'm not exactly doing $1.50. Maybe doing $1.20.
Well, but that's where, thank goodness, that's where the appetizers come in as well. I mean, you're not just relying on a bowl of ramen.
Right, and then we have draft beers, and we have a full bar, so that all factors in. We're trying to, it's not only about the food; it's about the experience.
Of course,
the atmosphere, the setting. That's why we spend so much money on the interior.
Speaking of which, I'm not going to name names. But there's a brand new restaurant that's open that looks like they had a mind meld with your architect.
There's actually a couple of them. There's one, I believe, coming on in 1960 that's looks like a carbon copy.
Well, that's not a good idea.
You know what they say, imitation is the
highest form of flattery.
Flattery, yeah. So
I guess, so be it. So. Are you training the staff? Is that what you also do, Keith?
Yeah, at this point we have a bunch of veterans that who've been with us for more than a year, so usually they just let them shadow.
What's one of the first things that they tell a customer?
Well, I think they talk about the broth. They have to know about the broth, because that's kind of our signature. Almost any ramen spot, what's the broth?
What's the number one seller?
Tonkatsu black.
No doubt about it.
Right.
What's second best?
Chicken. We offer I think we're one of the few restaurants that offer a really, really good chicken ramen.
Is that the tonkatsu white?
No, the tonkatsu white is half chicken.
Half chicken and half pork. Okay. I think that's my favorite.
Right. You don't get such a heavy pork broth. I mean, some people feel that the pork broth is too heavy. So we go half and half on it, and it makes it a little bit lighter, but you still get that creaminess, that taste. For those who don't like pork, we offer the chicken. We have a very a light chicken base, kind of like a shoyu base.
Gotcha.
But even our veggie broth as well. And starting next week, we're gonna have our first vegan ramen. And believe it or not, I went into training for the vegan ramen this past weekend. When I had my first bowl, I could not tell that was...
Seriously? It didn't taste like an alkaline battery or nothing like that? It actually tasted good.
It's absolutely fabulous. I actually try to dissect that thing myself to see exactly what... I thought they used pork broth in it.
And vegan, absolutely no...
Completely 100% vegan.
I had one of our chefs originated in California at the Jinya out there, who works with us now, and he knew how to make it. So I had to make me a bowl, and whenever we introduce new ramens, I have the servers I'll bring a bowl out or two, and I'll have all the servers sample it.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they'll take one bite, and then they'll get a little weirded out about sharing a bowl of ramen with everyone. So it ends up being half full, and end up throwing away the rest. As long as they get a taste of it, and you have an idea what the profile looks like. I put this spicy vegan one out for them. There was like hyenas on a carcass. They wouldn't. They were fighting over it. This is the first time it's ever happened.
And when is this coming out?
Next week.
Next week.
Next week.
So the middle of March, middle of May, middle of May.
We've had one of the main things about Jinya is that we've only offered a veggie ramen for customers, but we understand that with the population nowadays, there's a lot of vegans out there, just people who like to eat healthy. Okay, so Jinya R&D, we worked together to develop a vegan ramen, but we wanted to make sure that it tasted good. We don't want something plain and where customers get it and says, ugh, I can't believe this is vegan. Ugh. So we spent a lot. Actually, this particular ramen took about a good 6 months to develop. And once we developed it, Jinya is actually having all the franchisees fly in individually to train for this.
For vegan ramen.
For vegan ramen. One of the Jinya's, it's high standard. I can say, if you want to carry some of their signature appetizers or signature ramen inside your restaurant, you are required to fly in there yourself, book yourself a hotel room, get inside their corporate store and learn it yourself. They're not going to send you a recipe list. They're not going to put it on a YouTube where you can watch it. You get in there and learn it the right way, because consistency is very, very important.
Well, I remember when I was with you in LA, you were learning literally the ropes from the bottom, man. Right. I still remember you were sitting in the hallway on the phone doing business on your phone, almost in like this crouched fetal position on the floor talking, doing business on the phone while you were learning the ropes. Right. And when it comes to the vegan ramen, it's going to be the same. It's going to be the same thing.
I mean, we don't cut any corners. Jinya, the way that they have their business structured is that they don't cut any corners. Just like the shrimp toast. For any other average restaurant, you can get people to bring in bread and make your shrimp toast. No, we have to get a certain kind of bread, otherwise you can't carry that item.
I can't wait to try. I'm serious. I can't wait to try the shrimp toast and the vegan ramen.
It's fabulous. I mean, honestly, look, I'm a foodie, okay? But usually when I open my own, when I have my own restaurants, I get so sick of the food that I don't really touch it anymore, because I see it, I make it. Jinya is one of the few businesses that I own that I would actually sit down at least once or twice a week and eat and pick something off the menu and eat it, simply because the food, I feel, is that good.
When I met with Ivan Ramen in New York, one of his requirements, one of his personal requirements, is whenever he comes in to do business, he will sit down and eat a bowl of his ramen every single time he has a meeting or anything, to test it every single day. He wants his own signature taste, and he wants to ensure that it's getting hit, because he's really the only one in his head that has an idea of what he wanted, and he wants to make sure that standard is observed and maintained.
And the standard needs to be upheld. I mean, I totally agree with what Ivan's doing. From like myself, every once in a while I would hit that Ramen Line, okay, and I would grab a couple tickets and I would make the ramen myself, just to make sure that all the ingredients, from the Tokyo Negi to the kikurage, everything is cut right, okay, prepared correctly, okay. You want to make sure that the broth, okay, everything on that, you won't know unless you work on that Ramen Line, because by the time you get a bowl out in front of a customer, okay, it's too late.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you have to get in that Ramen Line, okay, take a look at the thickness of the chashu, the pork chashu, okay, are they cutting it correctly? Not too thick, not too thin, okay, are they marinating the pork correctly? All this comes into play because everything is fused together in that one bowl.
Sure.
And when that customer gets that bowl in front of them, okay, that's your one chance. Everything inside, that's your one chance to impress them if they've never had a bowl of ramen before. You screw that one up, guess what? Their image of your type of food.
Or if they're a newbie of ramen in general.
Right. They'll say, well, this is not good. I don't like it. I'm never coming back.
Yeah, why is everyone talking about ramen? I don't get it.
They'll say it's overhyped or whatever. So it is the utmost importance to make sure that each and every bowl that goes out. That's why we have Keith, to be honest with you, when he's inside the restaurant, he's on that expo position more than any other person. That expo position, you see that ramen, you're the last line of defense before that ramen gets out to the customer.
Right.
Okay, that means you need to make sure that bowl looks nice. Any little drip of soup on the side of the bowl, you're gonna need to wipe off. Okay, make sure everything goes out correctly. The toppings the customers have ordered, make sure they all go out correctly, because this is your one time to impress them.
It may be your one and only shot.
That's it.
And like I said, they take a picture. They take a picture and then they post it to their Facebook or Instagram, and other people see it. So it's got to be photo ready.
And as part of quality control, I'll give you an example. Most customers, when they post photos of the food they take at Jinya, they post it on Yelp. Okay, so on our Yelp page, you get all these customer photos. We actually have someone, at corporate that scans our pictures, that checks over our pictures, and then they'll call us back and say, "Hey, your crispy shrimp balls, the batter is too thick. You need to make an adjustment on it."
I'd be popping Tylenols all day if that's what someone did with me, because I'm a walking car wreck. And for you guys to, so someone's checking it out.
Someone's checking out. Just like we had a phone call the other day for the takoyaki. Our takoyaki appetizer needed to be done a certain way, and unfortunately we had someone new and they didn't put the sauce in the right angle. Okay, instead of doing at a 45-degree angle, he put it side to side. And that photo went on Yelp. And, next thing you know, I get an email from corporate saying, "Hey, Jim."
They check Yelp.
They check Yelp.
Yeah.
They check Yelp.
Okay, and we're almost done here. I don't want to keep you here too long. I'm in the luxury position because I don't own a business. I don't like Yelp. I don't like Yelp. I don't like Yelp at all. I use in the ratings, especially for sushi, I tell people that the vast majority of people, from a knowledge level of sushi from 1 to 100, the average sushi lover is a 2. That's my opinion. That doesn't mean I'm right, but that's what I believe.
Right.
They're 98 points off from even understanding what great sushi is. And they're getting on Yelp and rating it. So you have 5,000 twos rating something they don't know very well. It's not their fault. No one sat them down at the sushi bar and taught them. My problem with Yelp is that you have people, for example, who might sit down at a ramen shop and sip it and say, "Oh, this is too hot. This is unacceptable," and give you a 1 star when they're rating you for exactly the way it's supposed to be. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little.
No, I totally agree. Okay. I totally agree. And this is why,
And then other people who don't know this bonehead rated it improperly. They're taking their advice, looking at the 1 star or 1.5 stars, and gauging on someone with absolutely no experience. Yelp, in my opinion, is a country club for the inexperienced. That's what I think. That's what I think.
Yeah. To quote a friend of mine, a really great comment, Kurt Braunohler, he said, "I've never, in regards to Yelp, he said, I've never hated a group of society so much, but yet relied on their opinion every single day."
That's a horrible thing.
And ever since Midtown's been open, I think we're up almost at 1,000?
965.
965.
As of today, we have
965 Yelp reviews, and you wouldn't believe the amount of. We have people right on there that they said that we use Fiji water for our broth.
Where does that come from?
It's like if YouTube comments could affect your livelihood.
Well, I think that's exactly my point, is that with all the effort you could put into it, someone inexperienced is rating you without any measure of their knowledge in this area. So if they simply have a bad day and they have awesome ramen from wherever they're eating it, you get a 3 because they've had a bad day.
Right.
If I could, and I know no one from Yelp, well, maybe they will be listening. I don't know. I'd have a hitman out for the founder of Yelp, because I think Yelp hurts everything. In fact, I know a number of businesses that have said the moment they open their doors, "Would you do me a favor and just not start posting on Yelp immediately? It's a growing period. We need time to adapt, find out the kinks, what's working. Rating us now is unacceptable." And some people take personal pleasure in being the first person to Don't get me started. Anyway, all right, here we go.
For the podcast listener, Carl's doing a lot of pointing.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of pointing. All right, let me ask. We're wrapping this up, and seriously, this is my very first podcast. I've been wanting to do this for over a year and a half, and I am honored. I am extremely honored that I could do it. This was not easy to put together. I have never had more challenges in 24 hours, but we did it, and I'm delighted. So let me thank you both sincerely for this. But before we turn off the podcast, what do you recommend? What do both of you recommend? Maybe you have different opinions. What do you recommend? Someone walks into Jinya for the very first time. They have $30, $25. They have a credit card. They've never been to you before. What do you recommend as an appetizer and a ramen? They start their life with ramen. What do you recommend?
Keith, I think you would.
The classic order of gyoza, a full order, 8 pieces, and the tonkatsu black.
The tonkatsu
And
black.
if you're and if you're vegetarian, I'd say try the Brussels sprouts tempura, and the veggie soup ramen, or wait until next
Vegan
week
ramen
and do the spicy, creamy vegan ramen.
For me, I'm a big fan of the Jinya bun, simply because I'm a pork belly fan, and the Jinya bun itself, it's a single serving, but you have that really nice, good, thick piece of pork belly in there. You'll kind of work your way up to that bowl of ramen coming your way.
So for you, it's a good precursor.
It's a precursor. If you never had ramen before, the tonkatsu black is our most popular, but in my opinion, I feel like that particular ramen is a little bit too thick for me. So I would recommend like a tonkatsu white, okay, or even try the tonkatsu asari.
Okay. But it sounds like there's a theme running here. Try the tonkatsus.
Yes.
Yeah. Try those.
That's where you want to start on ramen.
That's where you want to start.
And then you can venture out to do the chickens, to the yatais, and everything else. But start with the tonkatsus.
Fantastic. Guys, thank you so very much. And I can honestly say I am beyond delighted that the very first podcast is now over. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.